Hello and a very warm welcome to She the People in our new series Invest Her in partnership with BSE Investors Protection Fund. We talk about personal finance, bring more clarity on important financial concepts, and help women be independent decision makers when it comes to money. It is my pleasure to welcome Kiran Telang, a certified financial planner registered as an investment advisor with SEBI. Kiran works with clients across India and overseas and helps them in making smart investment decisions and simplifying their financial lives. Thank you for joining us, Kiran.
It's an absolute pleasure, Mughda. Happy to be here.
तो किरण आज का सब्जेक्ट काफी इम्पोर्टेंट है क्योंकि सभी फैमिलीज और सभी इंडिविजुअल्स जो हैं वो कहीं ना किसी स्टेज पर या लोन लेते हैं या लोन लेने की सोचते हैं टंग ट्विस्टर और लोन लेने के टाइम में कुछ बातों को ध्यान में रखना बहुत जरूरी है कहा जाता है क्योंकि बैड लोन्स आपका पीछा नहीं छोड़ते हैं सो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट लेंडिंग टुडे व्हाट आर सम ऑफ योर इनिशियल डेलिबरेशंस ऑन द सब्जेक्ट किरण
सी मुग्धा, जैसे आपने कहा कि लोन के बिना जिंदगी आज के जमाने में जीना बहुत मुश्किल है, विच इज करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट। छोटी से छोटी चीज से लेके बड़ी से बड़ी चीज तक के लिए लोन मिल जाता है। आपको घर में एसी लगवाना है या आपको घर खरीदना है, दोनों चीज के लिए आपको लोन मिलेगा। लोन के साथ जैसे लाइफ आसान हो गई है, उस तरह से मुश्किलें भी काफी बढ़ी हैं। तो एज एन इन्वेस्टर और बोरोअर कुछ चीजें हैं जो हमको ध्यान रखनी चाहिए, जिससे बोरोइंग आसान हो जाए, हमारी लाइफ आसान बनाए, ना कि हमको ज्यादा मुश्किलों की तरफ धकेले। तो आई थिंक ये हमारे आज के डिस्कशन का टॉपिक रहेगा। सो लेट्स हैव अ लुक एट द प्रेजेंटेशन। एक छोटा सा प्रेजेंटेशन है जिसमें कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स मैं कवर करूंगी, देन वी कैन टेक दिस डिस्कशन फॉरवर्ड।
बिल्कुल
राइट। So basically loans, if you have to categorize them, there are of two types, secured and unsecured. तो इसमें फर्क ये है कि secured loans जो होते हैं, इसके लिए आपका कोई asset होता है जो लेंडर के पास गिरवी रखा जाता है। अगर आप साधारण शब्दों में कहें, जैसे आप होम लोन ले रहे हैं तो होम लोन के पेपर्स आपके बैंक के पास रहते हैं। अगर आप रीपे ना करें तो बैंक कैन कम एंड टेक योर होम अवे एंड दे कैन सेल इट टू रिकवर देयर ड्यूज। सिमिलरली व्हीकल लोन जो होते हैं, आप कार लेते हैं या टू व्हीलर ले रहे हैं, तो वो हाइपोथिकेशन होता है लेंडर के पास। गोल्ड लोन में ऑफ कोर्स आप अपनी गोल्ड ज्वेलरी देते हैं। एजुकेशन लोन में या तो आप कोलैटरल प्रेजेंट करते हैं इन द फॉर्म ऑफ से अ प्रॉपर्टी और एनी अदर एसेट, या आपके पेरेंट्स या फैमिली में से कोई आपके लिए गारंटर रहता है। तो इन केस द स्टूडेंट हु इज टेकिंग द लोन इज नॉट एबल टू रीपे, जिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने लोन दिया है वो अपने ड्यूज अपने रिकवर किस तरह से करेंगे? या तो वो आपने जो एसेट कोलैटरल के रूप में दिया है उसको बेचेंगे, या आपके पेरेंट्स पे वो जिम्मेदारी आएगी कि वो उस लोन को रीपे करें। दूसरी तरफ ये है अनसिक्योर्ड लोन्स, जहाँ पे कोई एसेट नहीं होता उसका अंडरलाइंग, जैसे पर्सनल लोन है। तो ये एंटायरली आपके क्रेडिट स्कोर के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट है कि आपको पर्सनल लोन मिलता है या नहीं मिलता है। तो जब कोई आपको लोन दे रहा है तो वो ये देखना चाहेंगे कि आप टाइम से लोन इंटरेस्ट समेत चुका पाएंगे या नहीं। एक होता है आपकी कैपेसिटी टू पे और दूसरा होता है आपका इंटेंशन टू पे। ये दोनों चीजें देखी जाती हैं जब कोई आपको लोन देता है। तो उसमें ये अनसिक्योर्ड लोन्स में थोड़ा-सा रिस्क ज़्यादा होता है लेंडर का, बिकॉज़ उनके पास कोई एसेट नहीं है जिसको वो बेच के अपना लोन रिकवर कर पाएँ। तो इसमें प्राइमरीली आपका पर्सनल लोन आएगा, लोन फॉर व्हाइट गुड्स आएँगे, बिकॉज़ एसी वगैरह या ऐसी चीज़ें आप जो व्हाइट गुड्स ले रहे हैं या मेबी मोबाइल फ़ोन ले रहे हैं, तो उसको बेच के उस लोन को रिकवर करना काफ़ी मुश्किल काम है। एंड दैट इज़ नॉट द प्राइमरी जॉब ऑफ द बैंक्स और द लेंडर्स, सो वो उनके लिए भी मुश्किल हो जाता है। क्रेडिट कार्ड आउटस्टैंडिंग, तो क्रेडिट कार्ड आउटस्टैंडिंग तो सबसे बड़ा अनसिक्योर्ड लोन है, क्योंकि जब आप रीपे नहीं करेंगे तो बैंक के पास कोई भी चीज़ नहीं है जिसको जिस तरह से वो आपका आउटस्टैंडिंग रिकवर कर सकें। और ये आउटस्टैंडिंग कई बार क्या होता है, हम आगे देखेंगे इस प्रेज़ेंटेशन में, ये आपको काफ़ी मुश्किलों में डाल सकता है। तो क्रेडिट कार्ड आउटस्टैंडिंग जो है फ्रॉम अ बोरोवर्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इज़ अ वेरी डाइसी प्लेस टू बी, सो यू हैव टू बी अ लिटिल केयरफुल देयर। अब आप एज़ बोरोवर आप लोन्स को किस तरह से देखेंगे? आपके लिए 2 तरह से देखना ज़रूरी है। अनसिक्योर्ड, सिक्योर्ड तो ये टेक्निकल साइड हो गई, लेकिन आप गुड लोन्स और बैड लोन्स में इसको डिवाइड कीजिए। तो गुड लोन्स क्या होते हैं? जिनसे कोई एसेट क्रिएट हो रहा है। जैसे आप अगर होम लोन ले रहे हैं, तो आपका एक घर बन रहा है जो एक एसेट है। तो उस घर की कोई वैल्यू है। आप अगर एजुकेशन लोन ले रहे हैं तो वो आपकी फ्यूचर इनकम की कैपेसिटी बढ़ा रहा है। मतलब अगर आप एजुकेशन ले रहे हैं तो आपको अच्छी जॉब मिल सकती है, या आप अपना कोई बिज़नेस शुरू कर रहे हैं तो उसमें आप अच्छी तरह से इनकम रेज़ कर पाएँगे। तो इस तरह से आपकी इनकम अर्निंग कैपेसिटी बढ़ा रहे हैं। सो दैट लोन इज़ अ गुड लोन। बैड लोन्स वो होते हैं जहाँ से कोई एसेट क्रिएट नहीं हो रहा है और आपके सिर्फ खर्चे बढ़ रहे हैं। जैसे आप हॉलिडे पे जाना चाहते हैं और आप हॉलिडे के लिए अगर आप लोन ले रहे हैं, तो आप अपनी फ्यूचर इनकम जो है वो लोन के रूप में, ये मतलब इंटरेस्ट और प्रिंसिपल जो रीपे करेंगे ईएमआई के रूप में, उसमें चली जाएगी। तो आप अपनी फ्यूचर इनकम को अभी यूज़ कर रहे हैं। तो दैट इज़ नॉट अ ग्रेट आइडिया टू टेक अ लोन। सो दैट इज़ एक्चुअली अ बैड लोन। सिमिलरली क्रेडिट कार्ड्स जब आप यूज़ करते हैं, क्रेडिट कार्ड्स में बेसिकली ये है कि आप आज खर्च कर रहे हैं और पेमेंट आप थोड़े दिन बाद करेंगे। इसी कैटेगरी में कुछ नए लोन्स आए हैं, पे डे लोन्स वगैरह जो कहते हैं, जो आपका लास्ट मतलब एंड ऑफ द मंथ आपके पास पैसा नहीं बचता है, तो आप पहले लोन ले लीजिए और आप पे डे पे रीपे कर दीजिए। तो ये कुछ कुछ ऐसे अनसिक्योर्ड टाइप के जो लोन्स हैं, जो एक्चुअली कोई एसेट नहीं क्रिएट कर रहे हैं और आपकी सिर्फ एक्सपेंसेस बढ़ा रहे हैं ना, और आपकी इनकम भी फ्यूचर में उससे बढ़ने के कोई चांसेस नहीं है। So you have to be careful about choosing the kind of loan that you're going for. Try and go for the good loans, not for the bad loans. क्रेडिट वर्दीनेस ये जो चीज़ है, ये बहुत ज़रूरी है। आपकी क्रेडिट वर्दीनेस किसको कैसे पता चलेगी? मतलब पहले कई साल पहले जब कोई क्रेडिट ब्यूरोज़ नहीं होते थे इंडिया में, तब आप कोई व्यक्ति एक बैंक से लोन ले लेता है और उसको रीपे नहीं करता है, तो दूसरे बैंकर को पता नहीं चलता कि ये बंदा या बंदी लोन रीपे नहीं करेंगे। सो दैट यूज्ड टू बी वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर द लेंडर्स। Now what happens is all the lenders have a reporting mechanism, जो क्रेडिट ब्यूरो, जैसे आपने सिबिल का नाम सुना होगा, so they report to credit bureaus like सिबिल who keep on updating the records, कि किसने लोन रीपे किया है, डिले किया है, किसने सेटल किया है, ये सारी चीजें रिकॉर्ड में होती हैं। एंड व्हेन यू गो टू एनी लेंडर टू टेक अ लोन, दे विल फर्स्ट चेक योर क्रेडिट स्कोर, और उस क्रेडिट स्कोर से पता चल जाता है कि आप पहले अपने लोन के साथ किस तरह से आपने बिहेव किया है। उसके बेसिस पे आपको नया लोन मिलेगा, नहीं मिलेगा, या किस रेट पे मिलेगा, ये इन चीज़ों पे काफ़ी फ़र्क पड़ जाता है। तो आपके लिए ये ज़रूरी है कि आप एक अच्छा क्रेडिट स्कोर मेंटेन करें, और अच्छा क्रेडिट स्कोर मेंटेन करने के लिए ये ज़रूरी है कि आप जो भी लोन लें, उसका टाइम से रीपेमेंट करते रहें। क्रेडिट कार्ड्स का आउटस्टैंडिंग जो है, आप ड्यू डेट से पहले रीपे करें। कभी कहीं कोई फाइनेंशियल दिक्कत आ गई है, आपने अगर कोई लोन सेटल किया है, मतलब कुछ आउटस्टैंडिंग रह गया हो और आपने वो सेटल किया है, वो भी रिफ्लेक्ट होता है, तो वो थोड़ा-सा आपके क्रेडिट स्कोर को नेगेटिव में ले जाता है। तो गुड क्रेडिट स्कोर मेंटेन करने के लिए आप कंटीन्यूअसली ये ध्यान रखें कि अपने रीपेमेंट्स टाइम से करते रहें। एंड सम अदर पॉइंट्स दैट आर नेसेसरी व्हेन यू आर बोरोइंग, बोरो ओनली इफ नेसेसरी। अब जैसे घर लेना है, घर लेने के लिए बहुत कम लोगों के पास एकमुश्त रकम होती है, लमसम अवेलेबल नहीं होता बिकॉज़ इट्स अ बिग टिकट आइटम, तो तब लेना ज़रूरी होता है। अगर आप घर ले रहे हैं, तो लीजिए। हॉलिडे के लिए लोन लेना ज़रूरी नहीं है, आप अपनी सेविंग कीजिए और उससे हॉलिडे करिए, आपके लिए लोन लेना उसके लिए ज़रूरी नहीं है। जहाँ तक ईएमआई की बात आती है, ट्राई एंड कीप योर ईएमआई आइडियली एट 35% ऑफ योर मंथली इनकम, और मैक्सिमम 50 तक जाइए, उसके बियॉन्ड मत जाइए। इसका कारण ये है कि अगर कल को इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ जाते हैं, तो आपका जो ईएमआई कंपोनेंट है, उसके बढ़ने के चांसेस ज़्यादा हैं। तो आपके पास हाथ में पैसा कम रह जाएगा खर्च करने के लिए, अगर आपका ईएमआई कंपोनेंट बढ़ता रहेगा। सो टू बी ऑन अ सेफर साइड, कीप योर ईएमआईज़ अप टू 35% ऑफ योर नेट मंथली इनकम। And we discussed about good loans and bad loans. So, if you're choosing, see whether the loan is good or bad, whether it's going to help you create an asset or it's going to increase your expenses. And choose the good loans, not the bad ones. Do not miss your payments due date. So, whether it's an EMI, whether it's your credit card payments, please do not miss your payments, because that will reflect in your CIBIL score and it's going to stay there for a very, very long time. ट्राई एंड अवॉइड द डेट ट्रैप। डेट ट्रैप कैसे बनता है कि जैसे क्रेडिट कार्ड आउटस्टैंडिंग है, आपने ड्यू डेट में सिर्फ मिनिमम पेमेंट कर दिया और वो जो आउटस्टैंडिंग अमाउंट है वो अगले महीने पे चला गया, तो उस पे पूरे आउटस्टैंडिंग पे आपको इंटरेस्ट लग जाता है। एंड द इंटरेस्ट इन क्रेडिट कार्ड्स इज एज हाई एज 36% टू 48% पर ईयर। तो वो जो अमाउंट है वो इतना बढ़ता जाता है कि अमाउंट इतना ज़्यादा हो जाता है कि आपके लिए आगे चल के उसको रीपे करना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा और आप एक जाल में फँस जाएँगे। इसको बोलते हैं डेट ट्रैप। तो इसको अवॉइड करने के लिए आप अपना पूरा पेमेंट टाइम से करते रहें। डोंट गो फॉल फॉर द मिनिमम पेमेंट। अगर कभी किसी महीने में दिक्कत आ जाती है, आप नहीं पे कर पा रहे हैं, एंश्योर दैट द नेक्स्ट मंथ यू क्लियर द एंटायर आउटस्टैंडिंग। डोंट कीप ऑन रोलिंग इट ओवर। और अगर आपके पास लार्ज लोन्स हैं, जैसे होम लोन्स हैं, तो होम लोन्स कैन रन इनटू मल्टीपल लैक्स और क्रोर्स। तो उसको कवर करने के लिए आप टर्म इंश्योरेंस लेना ना भूलें, बिकॉज इफ यू आर द प्राइमरी अर्नर हु इज रीपेइंग द लोन, आप ईएमआई भर रहे हैं और आपको कुछ हो जाता है, तो आपकी फैमिली के पास उस लोन को रीपे करने की कोई जरिया नहीं होगा, तो देन दैट टर्म इंश्योरेंस विल कम इनटू प्ले. सो इन केस ऑफ डेथ ऑफ द person who's taken the loan, the term insurance can be used to repay that loan, and the asset then belongs to the family. So keep that in mind, especially for large loans. So I think these were some basic points uh, for which I'm sorry, this is something else. So that is regarding borrowing. So I think we can take it from here, Mughda.
Well, that was very comprehensive, Kiran, and I think एक वो presentation को देखकर ही लोगों को idea हो गया होगा. लेकिन तब भी जो थोड़े बहुत questions और आए हैं, उनमें से एक सबसे बड़ा ये है कि कोई भी लोन लेते टाइम मुझे किन पॉइंट्स का ध्यान में रखना चाहिए. Excuse me. Primarily, people want to know that there are so many loan options available. How do I figure out which bank is better than the other? Although I always feel कि अगर आपने एक किसी बैंक के साथ में अपना long term relationship रखा है, तो usually लोग वहीं पे करते हैं transactions और उसके अपने फायदे होते हैं. But there must be a to-do list to sort of go to when one is thinking of taking a loan.
Yeah, so Mughda, obviously the primary thing, as you said, is if you have a long-standing banking relationship, you would prefer to go there because based on your relationship, आपको beneficial rates भी मिल सकते हैं. So if you're getting that, go to your own banker. Otherwise, you can scout around for some other lenders, you know, whether it is an NBFC or a bank, whichever is offering you a better rate of interest. And look at the repayment terms, मतलब prepayment penalty है या नहीं, service issues में कैसा है, मतलब you can just check with people who have borrowed earlier from these institutions, and servicing भी important हो जाती है, because अगर बीच में कहीं कोई issue आता है, तो how do these people respond? Otherwise you'll be left running from pillar to post for small matters, you know. So ये कुछ बातें अगर आप ध्यान रखें, तो I think it's not a very big deal. So basically आपका अगर CIBIL score सही है, and if you know, you are a good credit worthy investor, you'll anyways get a good rate from the lenders.
अक्सर लोग ये सोचते हैं कि मेरे पास एक टाइम पे लमसम आएगा तो मैं अपना लोन पूरा कर लूंगी, right? But that does not happen all the time. I just want to understand from you and also for our viewers that what is the psyche behind this process, कि बैंक्स क्यों ये करते हैं और ये क्यों जरूरी है कि अगर आपके पास में, अगर आपको लगता है कि आने वाले टाइम में आप इसको लमसम में दे सकते हैं, कि कोई पॉलिसी मैच्योर हो रही है या आपको कुछ इनहेरिट करने वाले हैं, यू नो, ऑल ऑफ दोस थिंग्स, तो अगर आप वो करना चाहते हैं primarily from that point of view, can you actually negotiate with the bank for a better you know, sort of a deal ही कह सकते हैं उसको, that अगर मेरे पास ये मौका रहा तो मैं ये करूंगी, or is it something that is by the book, not always allowed?
So I don't think that will really help. You know, the banker will not look at it from that point of view that you will, you know, be getting some thing in future which you will use to repay the loan. The bank is basically looking at, as I said, first your intention to repay, and second your capacity to repay. So capacity to repay आती है आपकी income से. So whether you have a steady job, what kind of industry you're working in, what are the chances that you will not be able to repay. So all these things are captured, and obviously they are also you know, checking your assets at some level. So if there are substantial assets available, so the risk on the lender is obviously a little less, because there are assets available to repay the loan in case income पे कोई दिक्कत आ जाती है. तो ये सारी चीजों से होगा, but I don't think the banker will really you know, budge on the interest rate because you have certain assets available to you.
No, I wanted to know from the
Yeah.
point of prepayment penalties.
Okay. So prepayment penalties, yeah, prepayment penalties are standard clauses. So it does not matter, you know, what you have or what you don't have. Prepayment penalties are built in the loan document itself at the initial stages. Now, when you talk about early payment or part prepayment or lump sum repayment of the entire loan, it is more important that you look at your own personal situation, you know. That becomes more important because one, if you have a lump sum and you repay the loan, you are losing all liquidity. So suppose you have an event which is coming in a short frame of time where you will need that liquidity, say sending a kid abroad for higher education, or there is a dependent parent who might need some medical, you know, support. So in those circumstances, you have to weigh in whether you really want to, close the loan by paying this amount which is available to you. Second, also there is an opportunity cost, right? So what if you invest this money elsewhere? Will you get something better than the loan rate that you're repaying? So these are a couple of things which will be, helping you to decide whether you should prepay or whether you should invest or you should just leave it in a short-term investment account.
पर दैट्स अ ग्रेट पॉइंट, क्योंकि इंडियन माइंडसेट ये होता है कि जितनी जल्दी कर्जा आप चुका दो उतना अच्छा है, बट
Absolutely.
एक फाइनेंशियल प्लानर ही आपको ये बता सकता है बहुत कायदे से कि अगर आपके पास में सडनली फंड्स आते हैं तो ये नहीं कि आप उनको एक ही जगह भेज दें, आप उनको डाइवर्सिफाई कर सकते हैं, एंड यू हैव टू हैव दैट लिक्विडिटी ऑप्शन इन योर हैंड. सो इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि उस माइंडसेट से भी हट जाएं कि अगर कि सारा पैसा आया है तो वो लोन में ही चला जाए और लोन के रीपेमेंट में ही चला जाए, because a lot of people think like that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the psyche that Indians have. I mean, we're not very comfortable with loans. Probably the newer generations are, but the older generations are कि सर पे कोई कर्जा नहीं होना चाहिए.
That brings me to interest claims and rates and tenure of loan. What are the key things we should keep in mind with the two of these, interest rates and loan tenure?
Yeah. So the important thing to know between these two is that the longer the tenure, the more interest you end up paying. So this actually comes into play, in 2-3 ways. So one, when you're starting your career, initially the resources crunch is there, and there is a lot of demands on your limited resources. So at that time, you are actually looking at having smaller EMI payouts. So you might take a longer tenure loan, but as you progress in your career, where your incomes go up, you should ideally be looking at making smaller extra payments during the year, so that you finish off your loan earlier. So if you're making those prepayments, see, even one EMI extra every year, equivalent of that, you end up reducing the interest payout to quite some extent, so you will pay lesser interest on the same amount of loan that you're repaying. If you actually look at the amortization table, जब आप लोन लेते हैं आपको बैंक एक amortization table देता है, तो मोस्ट केसेस में ये होता है कि आप 50 लाख का अगर घर के लिए लोन ले रहे हैं तो आप 1 करोड़ रीपे कर रहे हैं ड्यूरिंग द 20 ईयर पीरियड. सो यू एक्चुअली पेइंग डबल. So to reduce that interest component, it's better to start paying something extra every year apart from your EMI.
Okay, all right. So now, before I move ahead, I should also tell our viewers कि भाई आपके भी जो भी सवाल हैं वो आप हमको भेज दीजिए, and I will put them forward to Kiran. Kiran, one of the things that we have noticed in the recent past is this mushrooming of private loan lenders. And there are people, there are companies, there are apps, there are loan sharks. There are so many people who have made it lucrative to take that money and then return that money quickly, कम interest में होगा, या तो बहुत लोग जो है उनमें temptation हो जाता है ये personal loan लेने के लिए. At the very outset, just wanted to understand that what is the difference between a bank loan and what is the difference between personal loan, and if one has to take personal loan, क्योंकि हम ये तो कह नहीं सकते हैं लोगों को कि आप ना लो, लोगों की जरूरतें हैं वो अपने हिसाब से लेंगे. तो पर्सनल लोन भी अगर आप ले रहे हैं तो क्या क्या चीजें ऐसी हैं जिसके बारे में यू शुड बी एब्सोल्युटली केयरफुल.
So if I understand your question correctly, personal loan से आप आपका मतलब है you're borrowing from friends and family.
Yes, friends and families, and even आजकल तो इतनी सारी छोटी छोटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, कॉर्पोरेट्स हैं जो कि एक इंटरेस्ट पे आपको देते हैं, स्पेशली ये हमारे डिसऑर्गेनाइज्ड सेक्टर में जो ये आता है.
Right. So see, दो चीजें हैं. एक तो जहां अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर से आप लेते हैं, I mean I'm not talking about family friends, but I'm talking of अगर क्रूड टर्म्स में कहें तो जो साहूकार वाली जो पुरानी बात होती थी कि if you're taking it from the unorganized sector, the rates will be very high. One, because you are going to them because you're not getting a loan from the organized sector. आपका कारण वही होगा वहां जाने का कि अगर बैंक ने आपको रिफ्यूज कर दिया तो आप दूसरी जगह देख रहे हैं. And a lot of these, even the apps and the so-called P2P lending, to a certain extent, they are also offering to people who generally don't get loans through the normal channels. I mean, I'm not saying that all of them are like that, but some of them, yes, could be, people who are not able to get loans from the real thing. तो ये आप अगर अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर से ले रहे हैं, आपका इंटरेस्ट रेट डेफिनेटली ज्यादा होगा, यू विल नॉट गेट इट एट द स्टैंडर्ड रेट और एनीथिंग लाइक दैट। तो उसमें आप पे प्रेशर भी ज्यादा रहेगा, अगर आप रीपे नहीं कर पाए तो देयर आर थिंग्स विच कैन गो रियली बैड बिकॉज द टैक्टिक्स दैट दे माइट यूज माइट नॉट बी the standard ways in which recovery happens, so that can be really troublesome, so you have to be a little careful. जहाँ तक फ्रेंड्स एंड फैमिली की बात आती है, दैट इज बिटवीन फैमिली एंड फ्रेंड्स, it's a little easier, terms can be much easier. There could be the interest rate could be pretty nominal or it could be interest free loans between families. वहाँ पे आप थोड़ा सा अपने टैक्सेशन का देख लीजिए कि आप कैसे उसको दिखाएंगे कि आप का टैक्स पे क्या इम्पैक्ट होता है. So there are some rules where between a husband and wife, if there is some transaction happening in terms of loan given or taken, there are tax impacts of that. So whenever you do such transactions, do consult your tax advisor and see how it's going to impact.
Next, I move on to credit score. A lot of people actually don't know about credit scores. If we can explain to them simply what exactly is the credit score and who keeps that score, and how do they find out whether you have a good or a bad credit score?
All right. So credit scores are maintained by credit bureaus. So India में 5-6 credit bureaus हैं. The most famous which people have heard about is CIBIL. तो इसमें क्या होता है कि जितने भी लेंडर्स हैं, जितने बैंक्स हैं, एनबीएफसीज हैं जो लोन देते हैं, दे आर मैंडेटेड टू रिपोर्ट द रीपेमेंट्स टू दीज क्रेडिट ब्यूरोज. तो जैसे आपने एक बैंक से होम लोन लिया हुआ है, आपके ईएमआई पेमेंट्स चल रहे हैं, एंड आपके ईएमआई पेमेंट का जो रिकॉर्ड होता है वो सिबिल के पास चला जाता है, एंड देन आप किसी और बैंक के पास किसी और लोन के लिए जा रहे हैं, जैसे पर्सनल लोन के लिए जा रहे हैं या सेकंड होम लोन या टॉपअप या व्हाटएवर लोन यू वांट टू टेक फ्रॉम एनी अदर लेंडर. तो आप जब सेकंड बैंक के पास जाएंगे तो सेकंड बैंक विल फर्स्ट कॉल फॉर योर सिबिल स्कोर. तो उस शीट में सिबिल स्कोर की जो शीट आती है उसमें सारा रीपेमेंट हिस्ट्री होती है आपकी कि आपने इतना लोन इस इंस्टीट्यूशन से लिया है, इसके रीपेमेंट्स इस तरह से हुए हैं, आपने कुछ ईएमआई स्किप कर दिए हैं, या आपने ये लोन रीपे नहीं किया है, या 10 साल पहले आपने कोई लोन लिया था और उसको सेटल किया है बिकॉज आप कर नहीं पाए. ये सारी हिस्ट्री उस रिपोर्ट में होती है. उस रिपोर्ट के बेसिस पे एक स्कोर जनरेट होता है, विच इज यूजुअली इन केस ऑफ सिबिल इट इज आउट ऑफ 900. तो 900 का स्कोर है, उसमें से आपका स्कोर कितना है. इफ यू आर अबव 750 और अ गुड क्रेडिट, दैट्स अ गुड क्रेडिट स्कोर. अगर आपका 500 से नीचे स्कोर है तो फिर बैंक से आपको लोन नहीं मिलेगा. आई मीन दैट इज द प्राइमा फेसी वे ऑफ लुकिंग एट दैट. सो ट्राई एंड कीप योर स्कोर्स अबव 750. अगर आप टाइम से रिपेमेंट कर रहे हैं, क्रेडिट कार्ड का ड्यू डेट अगर आपकी 15 तारीख है, आप तो 10 या 11 तारीख को आप पेमेंट रिलीज कर देते हैं, तो 14-15 के टाइम तक आपका क्रेडिट हो जाता है आपके क्रेडिट कार्ड में. तो इस तरह से अगर आपका पेमेंट्स टाइम पे हो रहे हैं तो ये क्रेडिट रिपोर्ट बहुत ही क्लियर होगी, आपका क्रेडिट स्कोर बहुत बढ़िया रहेगा. So that is the way the lender also knows कि ये बंदा या बंदी सही तरह से पेमेंट कर देंगे, so the risk of lending to them is lesser. You get a better rate also sometimes. So that is what a credit score is.
If someone has a bad credit score, Kiran, what lending options do they have, and can the score be improved upon?
Yeah, it becomes a little difficult to get loans if your credit score is not that good. So that is when the unorganized sector comes in. So then obviously they're taking a higher risk, so they will demand a higher interest rate. So those options open up. Then you have to go to your friends and family to borrow. I mean, that is one way out of it. Improving of credit scores, yes, it will happen over a period of time, because if you improve your credit behavior, if you make repayments on time and other things like that, then the score improves over a period of time. But the record still stays. I mean, it doesn't disappear. I mean, you cannot make it disappear just by good behavior. It will show, but then it will also show that there has been improvement.
It usually happens with credit cards. A lot of people buy credit cards, as in they take credit cards because the banks give them very happily these credit cards. And then sometimes you falter, sometimes you delay, but actually they don't read the fine print, so they never know that even defaulting on one installment or two as in one payment cycle or the second payment cycle, it actually affects your credit score, right?
Absolutely. I mean, in credit cards, it's doubly dangerous because it is one way it is impacting your credit score, and the second you're paying an interest as high as 36 to 48% per annum on the outstanding amount. अगर आपने एक 10,000 का पेमेंट मिस कर दिया, that might become pretty high the next time that you're going to pay that. So credit cards are a double whammy. So you have to be extra careful there. And even when you're getting a higher credit limit or you're getting credit cards being offered by 10 different banks, try not to go for all of it unless you really need that. See, because that will show credit hungry behavior, so which does not reflect very well on your CIBIL score. That is also reported, by the way. So, what amount of
That is
credit limit do you
interesting.
have? How much you are utilizing out of that? So, try and avoid unnecessary credit cards that you don't want to use.
Yeah, people have now these bunch bunch of credit
Yeah,
cards. अब उन credit cards के लिए अलग wallets भी बनने लगे हैं कि आपके इतने सारे credit cards हैं. And
right.
people take a lot of pride at times in it, that I have so many credit cards, or the bank has given me very happily, but yeah, it's such an eye wash.
Yeah, and it also becomes difficult to manage if there are multiple credit cards. You forget the dates, then there is some outstanding which you forget to pay, and sometimes, I mean, you forget about a credit card that you had, and a small amount is outstanding, and it
Right.
keeps reflecting in your CIBIL, and you will not look at your CIBIL score unless you're going for a loan. So it can really come as a shocker when you actually want a loan and there is some outstanding, and then your credit score is bad because of that, and it could be a very small amount which has been outstanding for a very long time.
One of the things that a lot of people are asking, because now you can take loan against gold and against mutual funds. What is the concept like?
So the concept is that there is already an asset which you do not want to, redeem right now, or there is a short-term requirement. There is some money coming in after a certain period of time. So maybe to tide over that period, you just need to utilize the current assets. तो उस पे आप लोन लेकर you can pay the interest for that short period of time, and then repay whenever, say, you're getting a maturity of some fixed deposit, or there's some inheritance, what you were mentioning, something of that sort that comes in. You can close the loans that you have taken on these, and your investments continue as such. See, because what happens is, say on a mutual fund, if you're withdrawing instead of taking a loan on that, there will be implications of tax. So there could be long-term, short-term capital gains which are there. There could be exit loads if the period of the holding has not been completed. So there are several such things which might impact, leading you to maybe look at a better option of taking a loan instead of redeeming. So that depends on the circumstances that are. So that those options are available definitely. And gold forever has been, saved for a rainy day. So if there is nothing else, you can always borrow against gold.
Hmm. Should one take personal loans for lifestyle choices? That is one question that comes up. और उसका उसका कोई सही जवाब या गलत जवाब नहीं है, as we always say, because people have their own choices. But as a financial planner, what do you recommend? How to create that balance, perhaps? If not completely yes or a no, but what is your thought on it?
Yeah. So yeah, as you said, it's difficult. I mean, people do wish to spend their lifestyle being flashed around on social media, and you want to live that way. So it's a difficult choice, yes. But personal loans, as we were discussing during the presentation, is coming under the bad loan category, because it's not creating an asset. It's maybe giving you an experience if you're taking a holiday, or it's maybe giving you some short-term pleasure out of a gadget that you're buying. I would say a better way is to build in delayed gratification. Put down a goal. You want, say, a lakh of rupees or 2 lakh of rupees to go on a holiday. Save bit by bit over a couple of years, and then use that instead of taking a loan and then starting to repay. See, what happens is, for these small things, if there are difficulties in repayment later, your entire uh, credit score gets impacted if you're not able to repay it on time. So why unnecessarily get into all that hassle? So just start building. So even when you're creating your financial plan, even for these smaller things, you can have set goals, or you can just have a lump sum amount which is put across for lifestyle expenses which are unplanned for, and you pick it up from there. So keep on replenishing that fund, and keep on picking up from there whenever you have such requirements that come up.
किरण, इंटरेस्टिंगली आपने ये बात कही आजकल, लेकिन लाइफस्टाइल प्रोवाइडर्स जो हैं, वेकेशन मेकर्स जो हैं, उन लोगों ने भी बहुत स्मार्ट एक चीज जो ऑप्शंस ऑफर किए हैं लोगों को, वो ये है कि आप आज आप चले जाइए, लेकिन हाफ पेमेंट करिए, और फिर अगले 2-3 महीने में आप इंटरेस्ट फ्री इंस्टॉलमेंट्स में आप वो चीजें खरीद सकते हैं या वो चीजें चुन सकते हैं. I think that's an interesting concept, and one has to be smart about that. But it is interesting to see how the market is also evolving कि आप लाइफस्टाइल में अगर आप उस तरीके के खर्चे भी कर रहे हैं, then it somewhere sort of offers you an option to not put all your money in that one in one go in that vacation, versus if you have the option of paying it in installment, go for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are demands and there are solutions that are coming up for it. So it's your call whether you really want to go for it. So this, reminds me of that movie Tara Rampam, where Saif Ali is a racing car driver and he suddenly comes into money and he buys everything on installments, and then
Right.
things go wrong and he's not able to repay. So that was the extreme case, but I mean, that's the way things are. So everything comes easy, it's available. So do you really want to take it? It's your choice.
All right. So before we go to our questions from our viewers, and I believe there are quite a few, which we'll start reading. One last question from my side, Kiran, which is, how do you read the fine prints? Because when the booklet comes, it is so big and there are so many pages, and but what are the main things that you should sort of look at, which can be red flags? Because a lot of people do not read papers, unfortunately.
Right. So first of all, good to have a financial advisor by your side, so they will help you. That will make life easier for you. As far as the fine print goes, check the rate of interest. Check what are the penalties applicable in case there is a delay in payment, or if you prepay, what are the penalties? Part prepayment, full repayment before time. So what are the things on that? Is there any moratorium clause? Are there any additional things if you want to transfer your loan to another bank? So what are the charges on that? So there are processing charges and things which apply. So if is there any additional charge on that? So these few basic things will be required. And obviously, when you are repaying your loan, ensure that you clear your papers from the lender. So because the original papers will still be with the lender. So ensure that you get everything back because they have to be in your possession. So tomorrow, if you want to sell your house or your vehicle, all the papers should be in your name. Especially in case of vehicle, there are hypothecation which is done, so that has to be cancelled.
Hmm.
And if you have also given some insurance policies along with your home loan papers, they also have to be, the assignment has to be cancelled on that. So all those things when you're closing the loan. So these are some of the things that you need to keep in mind.
Great. All right, let's take some questions from the audience. Can we have them? Misha B is asking, what is the best way to repay a loan for someone who is financially not stable?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Hmm.
So I think you will have to really look into the situation. It's very difficult to give a generic answer to that. But if you mean volatile income in terms of not stable, so whenever you have that income, ensure that one amount is kept aside for repayment. So say if you get paid, if you're a freelancer, so if you get paid not like a salary every month, but you get say something every quarter or every 6 months. So keep a lump sum aside for the repayments that you have to make towards your loan. So that can probably help.
I think definitely not take another loan for paying
Absolutely,
the loan.
absolutely, absolutely.
All right, next question is from Bhavna Bisht. What are the tools of investment one can focus on prior to starting a self funded small enterprise?
Very interesting. So, yeah, so in terms of, I mean, this is more of a question of investment, portfolio creation. But I would say if you're looking at a loan, you look at what benefits are given to you if you're working in a particular sector, because government has certain schemes which give loans at beneficial rates to one. It could be category as a woman, you could get a better rate of loan. Second, if you're in a particular industry, that industry could have some subsidies or benefits which are given. So study those and choose which one works for you and get the paperwork in order. Apart from that, if you talk from an investment point of view, depends on how far your entrepreneurship goal is. You can start building up right from day one when you start earning in your salary in your job or whatever, till you are actually ready to take the plunge. So you can choose funds, schemes, or investment categories based on how far the goal is. So if you're doing it in next 2 3 years, you obviously cannot look at equity because that might just wipe off your capital that you're saving. So look at debt investments. If it's a farther away thing, maybe another 7-10 years down the line, you're thinking of being on your own, maybe you can put some equity component into that and let it grow, and that could be your corpus for your entrepreneurship goal.
All right, let's take our next question, which is does one decide loan repayment based on interest rate cycle? Karishma Khanna is asking that.
Yeah, so it could be one of the components. If the interest rate cycle is moving up, like we are in an upward cycle right now, interest rates are going up. So obviously, the bank will either increase the tenure of your loan or it will increase the EMI. So you have two options. But whether you are capable of repaying it. So as I said, repayment interest rate becomes an external factor. It makes you want to repay the loan because you don't want to pay a higher interest. But whether you are capable of repaying that loan, do you have that kind of liquidity available? That is the more important question to answer.
Okay, I have an education loan. What will happen if I miss to pay EMI 1 month or two?
So first of all, it will definitely be reported to CIBIL, and your credit score will get impacted, and there will be penalties levied by your lender for the delayed payment. So that will have to be paid.
Kiran, that, because it is a repeated sort of a pattern in the questions that I'm getting, uh, do loans have any, any way in which you can take like a period where you can tell them that, there has been a problem or I will not be able to pay, and can I defer payment? Do loans offer that in general? Can one ask for it? What is the criteria there?
It is not available as a standard pattern in the loan itself. You will have to speak to the lender if there are issues, and it will definitely reflect in your credit score as well, because there will be a gap. I mean, if you've already started repaying the loan and there are no repayments for some time, it will be reflected in the credit score. So that is it's very important to think twice before you take a loan, whether there could be such situations where you will be in a position that you won't be able to pay the EMI on time. So that's why carefully think before you take the loan.
So one thing that definitely sort of happens is that, which is happening behind the scenes, which you are not aware of, is that your credit score is getting affected. Because a lot of times it so happens you default on 1 or 2 months, the bank sends you a letter. They call you. And by the third month, if you are able to pay everything, they move on. You get onto the cycle, because there's so many people who would be doing that. But what one does not realize is कि पीछे आपका credit score जो है वो उसमें कहीं ना कहीं एक रिकॉर्ड हो रहा है और वो क्रेडिट स्कोर में रिकॉर्ड हो रहा है. तो शायद ये चीज हमको लोगों को बताना बहुत जरूरी है, दैट योर क्रेडिट स्कोर इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर योर फ्यूचर investment plans, etc.
See, I would also add here that when we are actually building the emergency fund, we always talk about emergency fund and creating a financial plan. So if you have loans running, please include your EMI also in the emergency fund. So maybe 6 months worth of EMI has to be kept in a liquid fund, or maybe a fixed deposit. So in case there is some break in income or some issues because of which you're not able to pay the EMI, dip into your emergency fund and pay that EMI first.
I think most people think of emergency fund as something unforeseen, but this is very seen and can happen.
Absolutely.
That you're paying those installments. So definitely आपने जैसे ही लोन लिया है आपको एक emergency fund जो है वो आपको बना ही लेना चाहिए. I think that's a great advice, and it should be included.
Yeah.
All right, we seem to have another question. All right, Kulbhushan Thukral is asking, is it advisable to advance loan payment? And we were just talking about that a little while back. Your thoughts on it, Kiran, once again.
I'm sorry, but I really missed on understanding the question. What?
वो कह रहे हैं कि क्या एडवांस लोन पेमेंट अगर आपके पास पैसा आ जाता है तो क्या
अच्छा,
एडवांस
okay.
चुका देना चाहिए? I think
हाँ, so that's what we were discussing some time back, that लोन रीपेमेंट के लिए आप 2-3 चीजें देखिए कि आपके पास एक तो लिक्विडिटी जो है, आप अगर सारा पैसा लोन में लगा देंगे, देन डू यू हैव समथिंग कमिंग अप इन द नेक्स्ट फ्यू इयर्स फॉर विच यू विल नीड दैट लमसम मनी. तो अगर आपको जरूरत पड़ेगी तो आप कहाँ से दूसरा, आपके पास प्लान बी है क्या? अगर आपके पास दूसरा पैसा अवेलेबल है तो बेशक इसको चुका दीजिए. दैट विल ऑब्वियसली सेव यू लॉट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. Second is there any other better opportunity? to invest and earn better than the rate of interest. That if your loan is at 5% and you are able to get 7 or 8%, it is better to obviously invest the money. But then again, also don't forget the risk. So because investments always come with risks. So with the level of risk, what is the rate of return that you will get on any other opportunity? Weigh that in and then decide to repay.
In all of this, one thing that always comes to fore is you have to have a great financial advisor, because there's so many times you're not aware of these things, and only a financial advisor who does this professionally can sort of step in and tell you कि आप क्या options हैं आपके पास. And it could be that sometimes a financial advisor may advise कि ठीक है loan खत्म कर दो, but then again it has to be such a studied and well thought of decision.
Yeah, because everything is interlinked. One decision, one action will impact something else. So how does that, interlinkage work? So you should work in a way that it's most favorable to the way you want to lead your life.
Right. Okay, one last question I think we have now. Let's see. Deepshikha Chakravarti is asking, when going for part payments on online shopping, what are the things in fine print one should be careful about? Very, very interesting question, because everywhere you have every site offering this part payment deal, and online shopping is the go-to thing that people are doing these days.
Yeah, so look at what is the interest being charged to you. So a lot of times there are, 0% EMI kind of thing. So in that case, it really doesn't make a difference to you. The lender is actually making some money at the back end by the calculations that are being done. To you, whether you pay a lump sum or whether you pay or take the EMI option doesn't really make a difference. So you have the money and you're just taking it because then maybe you can put the money in something as simple as a fixed deposit and earn, say, maybe extra 4-5% there instead of paying it now. So for you, on those small ticket items where you have the capacity to pay, but you have an option to take an EMI, it's fine. I mean, it really doesn't make a difference. So look at your convenience and go for it. But if there is an interest component to it, then you need to be careful.
All right, Kiran, any parting thoughts? इस बारी बहुत सारे हमने सवालों के जवाब दिए. It seems like this is one subject that people were really interested in. But would love to take your closing comments on this.
So closing comments, loans can make life easier or they can make life unbearable. So think 10 times before you take a loan. And once you take a loan, ensure that you repay it on time so that your life is on a smooth path. Your CIBIL score doesn't get affected and you're able to enjoy the asset that you're creating out of the loan.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kiran, for taking out time and as always being brilliant about answering all the questions and giving us the insight into this subject.
Sure. Thank you, Mughda.